Hello once again and welcome back. In this video we are going to restore a Tonka truck. Yes, it's not a 64 scale diecast, a Hot Wheels, Matchbox, any of those cars, but a lot of the processes and procedures in restoration are very similar. I tried to find one of these at the antique malls, but they wanted way too much, and most of them were the full-size dump truck, and there are a lot of videos dedicated to that particular casting. So we went with this little tow truck that we found on eBay. And it's in very poor shape, but it's all there, minus the tow hook. We'll sort that out later. One of my mutual subscribers, the Junkman, has a lot of these Tonka restorations on his channel. He actually does a lot of them live, and he recently started restoring Hot Wheels. So he encouraged me to restore a Tonka. So let's begin. Just like with Hot Wheels, the first thing we're going to do is remove the wheels and axles. Except on the Tonka, it's very easy. We take a flathead screwdriver, simply pry up on the axle, and it pops out of the plastic base. Now, not all Tonkas are like this, but these smaller ones tend to be the same. Now we need to remove the boom. There are two tabs on the bottom of the base. We just bend them out of the way, using a very blurry shot, unfortunately. Once we bend those out of the way, we can slide the whole assembly free. And here's what we're left with. Now we need to remove the interior/base from the casting. It doesn't just pop in place, it's actually riveted in place. Fortunately, it's only held in by this rear rivet, not the front. We take the center punch, make a small mark, and we're going to use our drill bit and attempt to get this thing out. Now this proves to be a little bit more difficult than I anticipated. The drill bit didn't do much of anything, so we resort to using the Dremel. Once I have enough material removed, I go ahead and use a smaller drill bit and drill out the center. This finally does the trick. Not only is this casting very rusty, it's very dirty as well. There's that little tiny rivet that held that interior and the rear portion together. Have a look at the glass. It's there, it is scratched up, and of course that beat up body. It's even rusted on the inside. I would say this is well played with, but overall there's no damage to the actual body, it's all rust. More than likely it was left outside in somebody's backyard and was put on eBay to make a buck or two. Unfortunately, the boom is just as bad. The rubber piece is still there, which again leads me to believe this was not played with very much at all. It is missing the tow hook, but the rope is still there. Again, this is somewhat puzzling. I assume the tow hook just broke off, or maybe even rusted off. I'm going to use the aircraft stripper to strip the body. Doesn't appear to be very effective. Usually by this time it would already start bubbling up. After letting it sit for about 20 minutes with no result, we're going to take more drastic measures and dump it in the jar. After sitting for approximately 24 hours, it worked like a charm. Now all we need to do is flip it around and do the same thing to the back half. Now I'll give all the parts a good clean in the parts washer. This has become invaluable. I should have purchased one years ago. We get to add a little bit more color to our paint jar. Now usually pitting is the enemy with Hot Wheels, but zinc doesn't rust. Unfortunately, stamped steel does. I'm going to use a wire wheel on the Dremel to remove the majority of the rust. Unfortunately, I won't be able to remove all of it, because that would leave holes. That's how rusty this truck is. It certainly doesn't look new, but it looks a lot better than it did. After this, we'll give it a good clean. Now this tow truck has a lot of white plastic parts on it, which means those are now yellow plastic parts. We're going to use this volume cream, which has 40% hydrogen peroxide. You can find this at just about any beauty supply store. We're going to apply it to our parts with a brush. It does not affect the rubber tire, so we just left it on there. Once we're done applying, we're going to wrap it in saran wrap. Now, I'm not 100% sure you actually need to do this step, but all the other YouTube videos I've watched on this particular subject, this is what they did. Wrap it nice and tight. We're going to take a UV light and apply that UV light to the whole assembly. I picked this one up on Amazon for $11. If I remember, I'll leave a link in the video below the description, or I'll add it to my Amazon page. This is a very low level UV, so I need to put it as close as I can. And as you can see, I've got a makeshift stand now. We'll turn off all the lights and let it sit for 12 to 24 hours. I'm excited to see the results the next day. And it didn't disappoint. You can see the difference between the finished side and the non-finished side. It is perfectly white. Although the interior isn't that yellowed, the grille is, but I figured why not? Let's just do the entire interior since I have to do the other side of the wheels anyway. Off camera, I painted the entire body with Tamiya primer, inside and out. Now, this restoration took a bit of a turn. My intent was to paint this the original blue color, or close enough. But as you can see here, we're going to use the Redline Shop base coat, which is a metallic silver. This is used on Redline cars that have very poor bodies, so you apply this base coat and it gives you somewhat of a Spectraflame finish when you apply the Spectraflame. It's not exact, but it's better than nothing. So that's what we're doing here, because once my grandson saw the tow truck, he decided he wanted a golden tow truck. So he gets a golden tow truck. Hopefully you can make out that metallic finish here. Somewhat difficult to get on camera. The windshield is not in horrible shape, meaning it's not broken, but as you can see, it's very scratched up. We're going to use one of our micro mesh pads and wet sand the entire windshield. I start at 1300 grit and go all the way up to 12,000. This removes most of the scratches except for one. There's one deep scratch that I couldn't remove. After we apply some mother's polish, we'll go ahead and buff the entire assembly. Here's the scratch on the right hand side, just too much material to remove, so we're going to leave it. And the countdown begins. We can reinstall our wheels and axles. They simply just snap right into place. I just set the glass in place. There's a small ridge in front and back of the actual interior. Then we gently spread out the body, install it over the front grille and over the rear bed of the truck. Here we have a reproduction tubular rivet, exactly like the original. I need to gently squeeze the body back together while holding the interior into place and insert the rivet. We're not done yet. We need to somehow mushroom the end of that tubular rivet. There's not a whole lot of options. We're limited on space. So we got this specialty tool for only $97 shipped. Hopefully I'll have some more Tonkas to do in the near future. Strip the paint from the boom and discover it's just as bad as the body. I already knew this. So we once again use our Tamiya primer, and I shoot the boom with some Rust-Oleum red paint. It's not perfect, but it will work. I also take this time to clean the wheel. Unfortunately, I could not find a reproduction rivet for the wheel portion, so we had to polish up the old one, and then I grind off the mushroom portion of that rivet. I was careful when removing the rivet, so this should work. We'll reinstall the wheel and then reinsert the rivet. And I can use the same tool that I used to reassemble the body. Look, it's already paid itself off. Once the wheel is reinstalled, we make sure it spins freely and it's held securely in place. I found an original hook and rope on eBay for $3 shipped. So we have $13 in this restoration. $10 for the car, $3 for the hook. Oh, and 97 for the tool, so 110. I make sure it functions properly so the little guy can tow his cars, and reinsert the little rubber portion on the handle. I made some reproduction decals using some white water slide decal paper. Now we need to reinstall the boom. We simply insert it into the front portion first, and then slide the rear tabs into place. I'll take my needle nose pliers and simply bend those tabs to either side. This will keep the whole assembly nice and secure. And at last, we are done. Now this restoration took a little bit longer than expected, mainly due to my hesitation on buying that $97 tool. I also had my reservations about the color. I really wanted to paint this the original blue or as close as possible, but at the end of the day, these are all for my grandson, or eventually will be for my grandson. This happens to be one that he's already playing with. And the gold color does look like something you might find in the 70s. And it has come a long way. I wouldn't feel comfortable letting my grandson play with this originally. I don't know where it's been, and it's full of rust. You just never know what could happen. And I've never seen him so excited about one of these restorations. He took it with him to his dad's this weekend and put it in his school backpack. So I assume he'll be taking it to school as well. I'd like to take this time to thank everyone that watches the videos, that comments on the videos, and everyone that supports the channel. I'd like to give special thanks to my top patrons, which are Mark Kidd, Corbin Toll, and Rob from Matchbox Garage. If you see any of the tools that I use in this video, be sure to check out the Amazon links. They're located below the video in the description. Be sure to add links to the UV light, and if I can find it, to that Creme. You may only be able to purchase that at beauty supply shops. If you have any questions or comments, please post those below. Also, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so. I have a feeling we're going to have more Tonka restorations in the near future, as well as the normal Matchbox and Hot Wheels restorations. And as always, thanks for watching.